Today we're going to talk with Eadie Finlayson, who is a longtime employee of Canadian Tire. Unfortunately, Chans, as seen in the photo, were honored in Nipigon but cannot be here to do the interview themselves. So we would like Eadie to either read some of it or tell some stories about the Chan and how they started the Canadian Tire store.
Well, I actually was working at the Royal Bank when in 1962 when Tom came to Nipigon, and each time I waited on him, he kept asking me what I did in my spare time. I kept telling him I didn't have any spare time, and so he asked me if I would do books on the weekend for him, and thus started a 30-year job for me, and working for Tom. He tells me that his choices of opening a Canadian Tire store were Manitoulin Island, Wawa, and Nipigon. And he says when he drove to Nipigon, he fell in love with it and decided this would be where he would build his store, fortunately for us. And so in 1962, he opened the store in the old Nipigon Bakery building. He had a one-bay stall put in at the back of the building, and actually had a little room there where he lived for a while. And they just installed tires back there.
Eadie, just tell where the bakery was, because people.
Oh, the old bakery was on building on Main Street, Front Street, I guess, in Nipigon. So he remodeled it and fixed it up and turned it into the Canadian Tire store. So he's noticing that the women weren't coming into the store, so he decided had to do something about that. So he got the contract with the Ministry of Transportation to issue license. Well, we had to issue the whole plates every year at that time, and so he started issuing licenses. And then I think it was the Sears store were collecting the revenue for Bell Canada, and so he decided that he would take that on when they dropped it. So this got a lot of business in the store, I imagine. And then in 1968, in the summer of 1968, disaster, and the store burned down. So he wasn't sure what he was going to do at this point. He rented a small building that was between the barber shop and Berlin's department store. And we worked out of there in the winter collecting Bell telephone revenue and issuing license plates. And Tom, of course, needed something to do, so he built tire racks in the back room and sold tires out of there. I'm not sure who installed them for him, but he was sold tires from the back room of this little building. And he tried to rebuild on Main Street, but the Township decided for some unknown reason that he would need room for 8 off-street parking. And which everyone knows in Front Street in Nipigon was just a way of saying you're not building a store back again. So he found a brick building up on the corner of 1st and 5th Street. It was a lunch counter on the front and a one-bay garage in the back. And by some miracle, he turned that into a very small store, but he was able to sell tires again. And in fact, he had to build a big cage, because when he ordered the winter tires and earlier, before the snow fell, he had so many of them there was nowhere to store them, so he had them locked in this cage for a while. And talking to him, he tells me that he was so proud of him, and when he'd walk down Main Street and just about every car would have the Motormaster tires on it. So needless to say, we couldn't stay in that little building, and he went to Canadian Tire, and he tried to explain to them that Nipigon and the surrounding districts could very well support a Canadian Tire store, but they didn't believe him. So he bought a hard hat, he set out, and he built himself the new building, the present-day building that is there. One thing I thought too maybe I should mention is Bill Nipola, a longtime resident of Nipigon and jack of all trades. He knew something about everything. And sometimes, unfortunately for Tom, Bill liked to work after midnight. So Tom put in a lot of hours building the building in the daytime and working with Bill at night, but it all paid off in the end, and so he managed to get up and running.
So the Canadian Tire store today sits exactly where the souvenir lunch.
No, the souvenir lunch was right on the corner.
Oh, okay.
And so he built the store behind
it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it was like a block building with a staircase. The office was upstairs. The staircase was about yay wide. When Lainey Belial and I moved all the books up to the office, there was no wall there at that time beside the stairwell, and so we moved everything, all the boxes up there over this narrow staircase, which Bill Nipola decided he could put an electric toilet in under this narrow staircase and a slide folding door, and we had a bathroom. So, yeah, I guess, like I put down here too, I guess it's advertised as the smallest Canadian Tire store. So in that case, this souvenir lunch store would have been classed as minuscule, I'm sure. It's that small. I didn't say that it was in 1972 when he built the new building. And so he worked there until 1992, when he decided it was time to retire, and he retired and moved to Richmond Hill. And
So did he get married while he was here?
yes, he did. He went over to I believe it was Hong Kong, and married Esther, and then eventually Esther's family moved to Nipigon. Also, her father worked at the Multiply Plywood.
Right.
Yeah.
And they had how many children?
Tom and Esther?
Yes.
Tom and Esther had 4 children. There was Tommy and Richard, Jane, and Ian. And I'm just not sure if Tom Jr. he worked a lot of years for Canadian Tire in Toronto, so I'm not sure he still could be there.
Right.
And
So have you got any little stories you can tell us about all that? I mean, there must have been a lot of changes as that store developed, just from the merchandise part of it, because you were talking, of course, that he had tires mainly, but did Canadian Tire influence what was sold in the store?
oh, obviously, and you had to purchase everything from Canadian Tire. Truck came in every Tuesday with what you ordered. Eventually, we ordered on computer, so Tom and Marie Zamoski, who also worked in the office with me, and she was in charge of that. So we went down to Toronto, learned all about the new ordering system. Tom took us down there for a few days, and so then the ordering was much easier. It changed a lot over the years, the way you could order merchandise and get it in, and the type of merchandise that we were selling was not just mainly automotive and tires anymore. So,
Have you any recollection of who the mechanics might have been in those days? It's interesting to add those.
yeah, Ed Belanger,
Right.
he was there for a long time. Ted Galarno, Jr.
Right.
And Joe Schwetz was one of the more recent. When Tom, I can't remember how many years then that he would have been in business. So, and I went to work and I did all the payroll, and so I found information on just about all, and he employed students all the time, every summer, and in the garage, even, on weekends. And so I went through the list, and I tried to find as many employees as I could find, and notified them all that he was retiring if they would wanted to send a card or something. So we had a retirement party for him. So, and the list was lengthy. So there was a lot of employees over the years. Dorothy Carbert was there for a long time in parts, and she knew her business. And Sandy Blanchette then took over from her when she left. And like I say, numerous employees over the years.
Right. Yeah, those kind of stores do employ a lot of people over the years.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
They sure do.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
And he just loved Nipigon. I mean, he
Right.
helped out a lot, I think, and he donated a lot. He donated his time. I didn't mention that Lavina recruited him. Lavina Collins recruited him when she was fundraising for our new hospital. And they traveled to Beardmore and all over the country. And he likes to tell the story of someone in Beardmore who, when asked how much he could donate, said he would donate whatever Tom was donating. And I guess it was quite a substantial amount. And so he got out his checkbook and matched it. So, he did a lot for the community.
He was really well liked by
Yes,
everybody in the
yes.
store because,
Yeah.
I mean, his most famous line was,
We order for you.
Yes.
I've heard that more times than that.
right,
Yeah,
yeah, that was his famous line. Everybody
Yeah.
knew him for that. Right,
yeah,
Right. But I was very active in the community, I think that. And his children were too. They all grew up and went to school here. So.
yes. And Esther also, she
Yeah.
was, active in the United Church, and
Right.
and
So it was last year that the town put on a celebration and invited their family here, and that was where the pictures came from that I had of sort of as the business of the year.
yeah.
And
he was really thrilled
Right.
to come,
Right.
and
he's come back many times, Eadie, because everybody will say, "My God, that Tom Chen never ages."
no, you did.
Yeah, he'll
That's
come
true.
back to fishing festivals quite often.
Yeah.
And people always look for them and know them.
Yeah, they're coming this next year too, and I can't remember why they're coming now. I was talking to them a few weeks ago, and they're coming again next year for something anyway. I can't remember now what it was.
Everybody wants to go and chat to him when they see him.
Yeah.
Because they have good memories of
Yeah.
the entire store here.
Yeah. No.
We're very fortunate, aren't we, for his foresight in
Yeah,
the fact
like,
that we needed the store.
Yeah, and how many people, because Front Street was the business area. I can't even remember if Zechner's had even moved yet across the way, and when they, anybody else but being told that they couldn't rebuild where they had their business, I'm sure they would have packed up and left town. I mean.
So he would have been the first one really to move away from the downtown core.
Right.
Right.
Because he didn't have a choice.
Right.
It was that or leave, and thankfully for us, he didn't leave.
Right. And when you look back now, lucky he did, because there is a little bit of space around there for parking,
Yeah,
which
right.
there wouldn't be downtown.
No.
And you can park right at the store, so
Yeah.
it was foresight for sure.
But I mean, there was no way, the property across the street belonged to the railroad. There was nowhere he was
Right.
getting parking.
Right.
So we're just so fortunate that he
Yeah, that he did stay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that he moved, where he did, taking a chance there. I mean, the business was all downtown, but
Right.
no. And, you talk about selling refrigerators to Eskimos. He did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
An excellent job, in fact.
Yeah.
He was a marvelous salesperson.
Right.
Wonderful boss. Generous to a fault. He had a huge Christmas party every year for all his staff with gifts and, very substantial gifts. He was...
Well, it was nice that we were able to have him come here. I just remember him talking about falling in love with here, and when you read his remarks, it's just that even his grandson has remarked for about his grandpa just loved here and coming back again.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to just add a little bit to Eadie's interview on Tom Chan. Earlier in the spring, when the Chamber of Commerce, top of Superior Chamber of Commerce, held awards, they did special awards to the Chans, and Tom's grandson came along, and he submitted a letter to me that I just thought I would like to read, because it tells a little bit more about Tom. And his grandson's name is Ridley, and he entitled his speech Ridley's Hero Speech. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have the honor of introducing a man who was my hero. He is being recognized here for his commitment to community and his leadership to develop a town that he proudly called home over 30 years. Tom Chan, Canadian Tire dealer of store number 201, otherwise known as a kid dealer, made his home in Nipigon in 1962, married my beautiful grandmother in 1965, and raised his family of 4 children. When my grandfather asked me to travel to Northern Ontario to give a speech about his journey, I asked, "Where are we going?" He said, "Nipigon of all places, the best place." Tom Chan, how do I describe my grandfather? Well, how do you describe your hero? Charismatic. Tom Chan is probably one of the most charismatic people you ever met. I was told stories of how he was able to sell anything to anyone. Some people would say he could sell ice to an Eskimo. It is what allowed him to charm people to open their pockets and purse strings to donate to the building of the hospital. My mom remembers my grandfather greeting people at the store as, "Hello, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. So nice to see you. We're here to spend your hard-earned money. Why not spend a little bit more and donate to the building of the hospital? We are in need of a better facility. You have so much money. Why not give a little to the building fund?" His commitment to this project was an integral part of its success. Honesty. Who wouldn't trust Tom Chan? Wherever he goes, strangers talk to him, whether it be in a line at the bank, having coffee at the local cafe, or even attendance at one of the grandchildren's performances. Maybe it's that kind of smile or that spark of interest in his eyes. What I do know is that people, strangers, friends, or family, can always count on embarking on the best conversation and receiving the best advice. Integrity. A wise man told me that integrity is what a person does when no one is watching. All of you would agree that Tom Chan wouldn't have been able to accomplish everything that he has without a high level of integrity. So many of his employees stayed with him for years, decades even. I've changed jobs 3 times, and I'm only 18 years old. The number of dedicated staff is a testament to the kind of boss he was and the kind of man who put people ahead of business. Traveling to Nipigon has been an eye-opening adventure for me. It brought back wonderful memories for my mom, my great-uncles, and my grandparents. I needed to see why my grandfather chose to make this beautiful town his home for decades. It may be the escarpment, the Great Lakes Superior, the numerous churches and gas stations, the fact that the closest Canadian Tire store was 100 kilometers away. It may be all of those things, but most importantly, I know it's the people. All of you have made Nipigon your home, so all of you are family. That's why a part of my grandfather's heart will always be here. Nipigon, of all places, the best place. Let's raise our glasses and toast my grandfather, Tom Chan.